Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. This is going to be an incredible episode that we have for you guys today. Today I have with me none other than the pastor of Patriots, Paladins, and Pistoleros. He is the original black man with a gun. It is Rev Kenn Blanchard.
Man, thank you for that. I can't believe you actually said all that for me.
You should have heard the ones I was practicing.
I have been in my basement by myself talking this stuff for the last, I don't know, almost 20 years now. And the podcast is not as old as that, but I've been in the mix of the gun community since 91. And that was the impetus for me starting everything. When I first started, I came from law enforcement background, came from a country, rural background, but I was transplanted here to the nation's capital, to the suburbs of DC, and didn't really get into anything until around the 80s, late 80s. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to start my own business. I thought, I'm a really good instructor. What can I teach? I thought, all right, I'll teach people how to safely operate firearms. It's a no-brainer. I can do that backwards. So I went to a range, made up a business card, hung out at the store, and people looked at me like I had three heads. One, I looked too young. I did not have the old retired police officer look that I probably have now. This was, again, 1986. I was crushed, and I thought, this is not going to work. So then I tried security guards. I thought maybe I'll just do requalifications and certifications. So I took all my stuff and got certified with everything. GSA, Maryland State, Virginia, DC Metropolitan Police, and crickets. Nothing. Or I finally got a couple of people when I got to the range, but that's a whole different story. With the security guards that I had met, all they wanted was somebody to sign off on their form. They didn't even want to touch the firearm, which crushed me.
That is, that's a little discouraging. But listen, we're going to take off. We're going to be driving around the nation's capital, and we're heading over into Washington, D.C. as we interview Kenn Blanchard. So let's hit the road, man. I find that kind of discouraging, that people who have to carry a gun for a living aren't necessarily gun guys, aren't shooters. No. And some of them don't even shoot very well.
No. It was just check off a box. I have to carry this heavy thing on my hip, and that's all I want to do. So what's wrong with you? Why can't you just sign a form like everybody else does?
Right.
And I said, well, I have this thing called integrity. It gets in my way sometimes.
Yeah,
so
it does.
I can't do it. So I didn't make any money at that business, and I thought, all right, I'm done. I got to find something else to do for the rest of my life. And I stumbled into an NRA meeting because I wanted to see what the big guys were doing.
I love the story about that. Hang on a second. We need to. I don't know how to get to DC from
Just
here.
Cross right over there.
So you're gonna have to like give me some directions here.
So right, we're at the crossroads of Arlington and Virginia. Right to our right is the Iwo Jima Memorial.
Right.
And Fort Myer is down that street.
Cool.
In the evenings, you'll see tons of watching the Marines stand up there and show their thing.
Wow, that's cool.
When we turn this little corner right here, we're going to go probably all the way to the left lane.
All right.
You can see the monument to a left.
Oh, yeah. Follow that?
Yep. Follow.
Cool. All right, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
So you got into it. Guys didn't want to, they just wanted to sign off. You went to the first NRA meeting. Or your first NRA meeting.
Yeah, it was actually an annual directors meeting. And public's not usually invited. They have an agenda. They're trying to take care of business. But it was here in Arlington. So
it was close. Why not?
Right. So I thought I'd just sneak right in there, and nobody would even know I was there. I was not not a member of the NRA. I was not a part of any of it. I didn't know anything other than it was a meeting of people in suits. And I'm going to just cruise right in here with my blue jeans and my cowboy boots and my black leather jacket. Nobody will even notice I'm there.
Right.
But again, tuxedos and suits, and I stuck out anyway. So I thought, all right, I got this whole thing pegged wrong. And these three guys appeared out of nowhere. They were directors from different states. And they said, oh man, who are you? And I said, I am Kenn Blanchard. I am a firearms instructor, and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And they said, you're not a member? I says, no. You know who we are? I said, yeah, you're an NRA. And they said, well, I'm not trying to dog you, but the way you're dressed right now, if the media picks up on it, they're going to spotlight you and kind of call you a Bubba. And I thought, well, that is my nickname. But what's the deal? And they said, well, we don't want you to get disparaged. You want to keep straight, get head for the needle. And we'll be on Constitution Avenue.
Cool.
Right behind us is the Kennedy Center.
Nice.
And we're in the world's most confused city.
Yeah.
Where all the politics start.
That's why it's confused.
Yeah. And that started my whole journey. I had a couple guys who educated me that night on history of African Americans and gun culture, and I had no clue about any of it. Messed me up, actually. I thought, how do I not know this stuff? So when I left out of there, I was on fire. I went and grabbed every research book still, because the internet wasn't like it was now. And I called all my old uncles that hunted, and all the ones that I knew had NRA stickers on their hats or embroidered somewhere. And they gave me a lesson that just encouraged me to keep on going. And I also found the negative side. I found out why I was having such a hard time in the gun world as a person of color, because there was a history behind it. And I was just oblivious to it. See, when I was a kid, all my heroes had guns. The Westerns, the secret agents.
Right.
Even the cartoons had a gun. I mean, it was like everybody. It was like no big deal. There was a gun rack in almost every pickup truck. You got rid of that stuff when you came up here to the city, because then you were looking like a country bumpkin.
Right.
A negative thing to it, but not like thug, dangerous. It was just, you were just country.
Right.
That was the worst that you could be. And that changed over the next 20 years.
It has changed, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. I actually have a friend of mine that was telling me last month. She said that she's a very liberal Democrat. I mean, I do live in Massachusetts, and she said that I'm the only person she knows that has a gun. And she said if it wasn't, she's like, you seem like a regular guy. I would assume that all gun folk are, camouflage wearing, shotgun in the back, wearing bib overalls, and that whole stereotype. And I'm like, yeah, we're not. I actually used to give her dating advice. My dating advice to her was, I said, if you want to, she was getting in her 40s, and she's, wanted to have a family and be married and everything. And I say, listen, this is my advice. If you want to meet a decent guy, get yourself a gun license, get a gun, and join a shooting range. Because every guy that you meet at the shooting range has passed 2 background checks.
Truth.
And she's like, that's a good point. And literally a month before she met the guy that she ended up marrying, she sent me a text, and literally it just said, Charlie, I think I'm ready. And I was like, that's all it said. I was like, oh my God, you're going to get a gun. Let's go. We're going to go shopping. It's going to be great. And then she's like, I don't know. And then she met a guy. But
happy times.
Yeah, gun folks are happy folks, and they're good folks. They're willing to let you try their guns and talk about their guns. When I'm at the range, if somebody's got a gun that I haven't shot before, I haven't seen before, an easy icebreaker is, hey, that's pretty cool. What is that? That's it. We all love talking about our guns, and talking about how we got
changed my life.
Story.
That little bit of that nuance about the gun community changed everything. As the more I got into it, the more I realized how much I loved my country. How actually I was a conservative, I didn't know it. I learned about the politics of guns. I wasn't clueless about all of that, aside from the history. And then the color thing changed too. I thought, here's a guy who looks like, well, now you got Duck Dynasty, but before Duck Dynasty, anybody who had a long gray beard and a camo hat, you were just kind of like, oh no. That's the same dude who will go, have you shot this before? I'm going, you're going to give me a gun? You don't even know who I am.
Right.
He was like, "Oh, brother, take this thing." They would tell you a history. Every time you touch their firearm, they would give you history. This is the history. My daddy gave me this gun, or this is the gun representing the firearm we had in Vietnam, or some war. And next thing you know, you got this friend that you didn't have yesterday, and it's just amazing. That happens. It's been happening to me for like 20 years.
Yeah, it's great stuff. It is. I wish people would realize that. It's really the way I see it is it's to think that all gun owners are hillbillies, for lack of a better word, or rednecks. That's really bigoted too.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
You have to check your own stuff at the door, which has happened to me so many times. Now I can with firmly say that anybody who will give you a firearm is family. Anyone who will try to take one away from you is your enemy.
Absolutely. I love that.
So we got the Washington Monument right to our right. We got the reflecting pool right there.
That's awesome. This is a great road trip, I got to tell you.
State Department is right over there. Right down that little street down there.
Way cool. All right, so you got into it. You changed your views. You started hanging out with some NRA suits, some gun people.
And they said, "Hey, would you mind speaking publicly about your view on the right to keep and bear arms?" I said, "Not a problem." And around that time, I was also trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life. I mean, there was a spiritual issue that was popping up in my head where I felt a calling on my life actually to go into ministry, but I wasn't really going to talk about that. So it was just in there percolating. And I got in front of the first legislative body in Richmond, and we talked about the right to keep and bear arms for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it was a big deal. I mean, they had changed a lot of stuff, but it was still bias. And the NRA, being the NRA, said, "All right, these are the points we have for you." And if you look to your left, there is the White House.
Hey, what do you know? That is the White House.
And we were struggling with words, and they sent a speechwriter to my room. They said, "Hey, here's a speech. If you can read some of these points, this will be it. This will be good for everybody." And I thought, dude, but I don't talk like this. And they're like, "Hey, but they brought you down here, and these are the points." And I was like, "I understand. I'm gonna read this thing over, and I'm gonna say it my way." And they said, "Well, okay." So reluctantly, they let me go. And when it was my turn to speak, I gave it my best, and the place was quiet.
Yeah.
Nobody said a thing. And I thought, all right, I really screwed up. Because at least the last guy, when he finished talking, the folks around the legislative body commented or questioned him or made some funny remark. Nobody said squat. So I said, all right, thank you, and got down from the podium and walked to the door. And I said, all right, hey, the NRA lady was there. She said, "Did you see what happened?" I said, "Yeah, I'm sorry." He said, No, you left them speechless. And I thought, that's good. She's like, "That never happens."
Wow.
These are lawyers. I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
So that started my whole train of becoming a spokesperson. I went from Virginia to Texas, from Texas to South Carolina, from South Carolina to Michigan, and successfully we got concealed carry. And it started the whole movement of the 32 states, and it went from 14 to 30, and it just kept on growing. And I met all the fabulous people that have been on my podcast for the last 7 years during that time. And then after that kind of ran out, I had all these contacts, I had all these friends, I knew all these people. Like my wife says, I'm the most famous broke guy. She knew.
Wives have a way about that, don't they?
No, they bring it back home. So I decided to start this podcast in 2007. And I could still talk to the people that I had met around the country. And connect the dots with the famous people and people I haven't met yet. And do a little bit of everything. Talk about gun history, talk about the racist roots of gun control, talk about nomenclature and the new guns and new products and the people. The people are always what makes me, makes me happy. The personalities that you meet, the stories they have, sharing all that. And that's been ongoing. And then somewhere in there, I became actually a minister. About 10 days before 9/11, I gave my first trial sermon.
Oh, that's cool.
And had no idea I'd become a battlefield chaplain because I had a special niche, being law enforcement, being a veteran. My view of terrorism was different.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to the people who understood where I was coming from, and that's how the Pastor of Patriots kind of popped in there.
Mm-hmm.
It just kept going. Bad part was the churches that I was working with, they weren't that way. They were extremely closed-minded, extremely liberal, extremely extreme, and they didn't want me rocking the boat. I would have something would happen in the world, and we'd have journalists from like France or Italy show up at the church.
Yeah,
we come to talk to your pastor, and our deacon would say, "Oh man, this is great. We never seen somebody from a foreign land come to our church." And they go, "Yeah, because he's the black man with the gun." And then my deacon would just frown.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want the worlds to collide. The whole Superman Clark Kent thing.
It did often. So I had to leave. I thought, you know what, it's only going to get worse, because as I speak more, as I help people more, there are going to be more instances where this happens. So there's an IRS building right there, the original.
The original IRS building.
There are like others now.
Yeah.
Satellite buildings.
They're all over the place, right?
Yeah, and they got museums on either side now.
This is totally cool.
We're still on Constitution.
Still on Constitution Ave. Way cool. So podcasting, you've been podcasting. Let's see, it's 2016. You've been podcasting for forever. I think it's you've been podcasting for a long time.
For the gun people, I'm one of the oldest. There's a couple that have come and gone.
Yeah,
I'm still there.
I got to tell you, that's originally how I found you. I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I got divorced, and I think I had a BlackBerry. I can't remember. It was before I switched over to an iPhone and joined the dark side. But I had a BlackBerry, and I was looking for stuff to listen to. And I ended up looking for podcasts because I knew they were the new and cool thing. And I found the Urban Shooter. And I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. Check this out. This ought to be interesting, right? And I guess the way I saw it is a white guy. I'm like, well, let's get a different perspective on the gun stuff. And he's a gun stuff, so he's a gun guy. That's cool. He's out there podcasting, and that's how I got introduced to you.
Oh, cool.
And actually, a couple years ago, I ended up I bought your first book, and I recently bought your second book, and I finished reading that one. And those are great books. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know. Like, obviously, you have a different approach toward it, and you see different things, and you spend a lot of time talking about the race aspect of gun ownership and gun control. I think the only thing I want to say I knew is Saturday night specials were just cheap guns that poor people could afford.
Yeah. Had no idea it was like a racist term.
Yeah. And it's still funny to hear people, once in a while you hear somebody call it that. You're like, do they really know what they're talking about?
Nah, they don't. That's an instant qualifier. And what's really cool is that since I've been talking about it since 2007, everybody who's heard me, or most of the gun people, are way more socially smart, inept on all the stuff. So you can quote parts of Black history that some Black people don't know, and that just drives people crazy right there.
Right.
And we got the Capitol.
There's the Capitol building. Holy moly, that's awesome.
And you can go either to the left or to the right of it. If you go up to the right of it,
I'm gonna go to the right.
you can head up toward the House and Senate buildings.
Cool.
Then we can probably do a loop, come back down. And go back
Yeah,
down.
is there a way to get all this stuff in one of the cameras without moving the cameras? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
To like get it on the side view, or like we could come back down this way. We'll see the.
Yeah, from the back maybe.
Yeah. All right, so gun people, even some Black people didn't know the Black history, or the history of gun
Yeah,
control.
because I was like that.
Right.
I had to become a nut with this stuff. And along my way, I found out there were like at least 2 or 3 other scholars that they had in-depth history of African Americans, Native Americans, the whole racist roots of gun control. But they spoke so eloquently and so scholarly. People went to sleep. So I would take what they wrote and just make it for the layman. And at one time, when I was in Toastmasters, when I was doing
Nice, you're a toasty too.
I was doing the speaking thing.
Cool.
I learned and practiced the not and and
Oh my gosh.
do all the things that you do naturally. But I found that being authentic and being passionate can outweigh it. People will bypass your ums and your ticks and all your strange things if the message is tight, if the passion is there, if they're feeling what you're saying. They don't even hear the other stuff. And when I first started, I was being so self-conscious that I wasn't talking. But see, you can get so scared of making a mistake that you won't say anything.
Right.
You'll say, well, I'm not going to hum, so I'm going to have a pregnant pause here and just wait. Which is good unless you are on a clock, on a radio, on a video where the clock is ticking. You need to be speaking. So I make a left at the third light.
All right.
And I think we'll be on Independence. Yeah, it's Independence.
So you were a Toastmaster for a while? Very cool. Oops. Great. The last thing I want to do is get pulled over
By U.S. Capitol Policeman.
Right. I got to tell you, one of the things I had to do after I found out yesterday I couldn't get a rental car, I had to go back to my house. I carry a gun, a Walther P22 underneath my driver's seat, and my tray here is usually full of ammunition. So I had to go home to take out all of my ammunition and the gun out of my car. I had to take the stuff out of the trunk.
Little ammo.
The little, like,
I know, they're so small.
The 22 shell casing, I'm like, what if I get arrested in New Jersey for this?
I know.
It's ridiculous.
Jersey is scary, man.
Oh, man.
So we got the House and Senate buildings on the right, and the Capitol is on the left.
Wow, cool.
And this time of day, you might actually see somebody cross over it, you know. Sometimes it happens. That's Rayburn House building.
Oh, wow, this is awesome. Let's see. So, you started speaking. You worked on your speaking skills,
and learned not to stress over it.
That's cool. That's a good thing to learn.
I used the podcast to help me speak, actually.
Oh, I could imagine.
Because
oh my gosh.
You get to hear yourself, and nobody likes their voice. But eventually, I learned where my range was, and I kept going with it. I decided, it'd be really cool if I could sing. And my wife's like, don't you dare try. And I said, I got to, because it's part of my growth.
Yeah.
And the worst thing that happens is I'll just lose listeners, and they'll just say, you suck, and go away. But that fear and that box will be checked off my life that I actually got it done. One of the things that happens here is there are...
Lose a lane?
Yeah, sometimes, but we had an emergency here at the Longworth building. Stressful city, D.C. is.
Oh my gosh.
And folks drop out all the time from stress. Nobody cares. That's the Cannon House building here to our right. And we're going to take a left and kind of go behind the next street here on 1st Street.
All right.
So I actually tried to do different things and learned how much I love music. I had forgotten.
Yeah, let's talk about that. My deal is this: when I was a kid, I wanted to play trombone with Kiss, and I didn't realize that Kiss didn't have a horn section.
I know, right? Not yet, anyway.
That's
the new one, the new Kiss.
Right. So that was out for me, and I just wanted to be a rock star. That's all I wanted to be, and I actually went to the Berklee College of Music.
Nice.
And I got a degree in music education. Wow. And I knew I wanted to be a rock star, but I knew I was still end up going to be a teacher. So that's the route that I took. And I've been a teacher forever. I think it's a good way to put it.
That's cool, though, man.
So yeah, music is important to me. I mean, I obviously, I've had cool gigs. I played in Pigeon Forge one time and opened up for Dolly Parton.
Wow.
And we did a gig one time where we opened up for Ray Charles. We had another gig where we opened up for Earth, Wind & Fire.
What?
And we got to play with Meatloaf at his daughter's wedding. So we've had a couple of cool gigs here and there. Yeah, good stuff. And for me, I've been a teacher for over 20 years. Been a teacher forever. And after I didn't, honestly, it was a fluke the way I got into the gun stuff. I was teaching in public school on September 11th, and my son was 9 months old. We had a meeting afterwards. The principal said if anyone got in the school that's not supposed to be there, that he would say the eagle has landed and everybody hides under their desks. And I was like, that seems kind of crazy. If all the teachers on the first floor had guns, they could shoot the bad guy. Teachers on the second floor can keep on teaching. And they thought I was crazy. So that February vacation, I went to go get my gun license, and I had a gun license by June. And I didn't know anything about it. I was a card-carrying NRA member. I had had my gun license, never fired a gun before. So I took a class that year with the Gun Owners Action League, which is the state's pro-gun organization in Massachusetts. And we did I ended up doing the NRA basic pistol class, where we did some live firing, and I get to do some shooting, and I'm like, this is really cool. I like this. And after a couple years of just being a weekend shooter, I go to the range once a week or something, I started doing these firearm safety education days with the Gun Owners Action League. And a couple years after that, one of the director of education asked me if I wanted to become an NRA instructor, and I took that route and took that path. And a couple years after that, I started teaching at a shooting school that we have up in Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
And my deal is, I was trying to make more money, just married and kids and everything. And I ended up going to the shooting school and saying, hey, I'm looking for a job for an instructor. After a couple years of being there, I would sit in the classroom and I'd teach 20 people, 22 people, gun safety stuff. Everybody started to look like Benjamin Franklin, because everybody paid $100 to get in. And I'm like, how can I come home with more Benjamin Franklins? So a friend of mine convinced me I should start my own biz. So I've been doing that for the last couple of years. I got a Facebook page and a website and all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
And then, I mean, for me, it's I joined Toastmasters, and then that gave me honestly, hanging up. But being in Toastmasters helped me hang out with positive people and people who set goals and achieve them and work towards new things. So that just kind of spilled over. A friend of mine suggested to, hey, it'd be really funny if you made a video playing the trumpet and shooting a gun. I'm like, that's crazy.
That was original, dude. I'd never seen anybody do that before.
I got to tell you, I'm a little perturbed because I've seen other people.
Copy now.
I saw one guy did a video of his mother playing the Star Spangled Banner on the trumpet while he shot a gun, and I'm like, not the same. I've seen Chris Chen. I don't know if you know who Chris Chen is.
Yeah.
I've seen him shoot the Star Spangled Banner, but I'm like, you know what? They edited all that stuff. I'm one take Charlie, man.
Chris
one-handed mag
is a
chains.
symphony guy.
What's that?
He's a symphony guy. He plays for orchestra somewhere.
Oh, that's cool.
What instrument does he play?
The only thing I've seen him play are the pitched targets.
No, he plays an instrument. I think he might be like a celloist or something.
Oh wow, I can see that. So let's talk about you and some music. You said you were in music and you wanted to get back into it.
I started off as a DJ. I was a kid in the hip hop era, so I'm looking at all these kids with the same hairdo I had in the 1980s, which cracks me up now.
Doing the Kid and Play.
Yeah, totally. That was me. I was there. And our music was not gangster rap. That's when I checked out. And that's kind of bears off to right here. Okay. And but the singing part, always wanted to do it. Just was afraid. And I learned through the podcasting where my range was, where I could mess up and not get booed too bad. Don't do any Michael Jackson. That's like no clue.
Your voice is too deep for that.
Stay with the Johnny Cash. Stay in the outlaw country, which I learned to like, which is amazing. My whole we're on Pennsylvania. We're gonna take a right here.
Take a left.
A left, yeah, the other left, military left, and recently I joined a gospel group that plays really, really old quartet style music.
Oh wow!
I've been dragging the guitar around for probably longer than podcasting, but it was like decoration. I just had it in my house.
Right.
And I had a folk guitar. I had different versions of electric guitars, and they were just there for furniture. And one day I thought, I'd really like to know how to play this thing.
Yeah.
So I started buying everything from videos to DVDs to CDs to books, and finally found a tutor, and actually got some level of understanding of music. And I was like happy, but then again I was like totally afraid to come out of my basement. So I'm just playing with myself. That sounds bad, but playing
guitar by yourself.
Yeah, man. And one day I was at church, and this guy was playing after church was over, and I said, "Hey, could I just sit with you and hold my guitar, and maybe I can follow something?" He was like, "Rev, you play?" And I was like, "No, I feel the urge to just be here in this whole musical world, the drummer and the keyboardist, and if I hit one note right, I'll be a happy guy. That'd be my whole dream right there. It's like, oh, go bring your guitar. And I found out that I have a good ear for it. So
Oh, that's cool.
I was able to play almost a B.B. King-ish kind of thing where
Nice.
it's only like 2 or 3 strings at a time, but I could do the voicing. You know? So if somebody sang, I could copy that. And couldn't chord for crap. So somebody else heard it, and next thing I know, they're like, hey, we got a group. I'm thinking, you guys are going crazy because I'm not there yet. No, come on, you catch up. And I've been doing that now for about 4 years. So.
Cool, man. You know, that's the thing about B.B. King, not that we certainly don't have to stay with one topic here. And that's a great thing about talking with you also, is you get this huge background. When B.B. King plays, he doesn't play chords. Like, he plays, and then he sings, and he plays, and then he sings. 3 of my favorite music artists are Willie Nelson,
yes.
Ray Charles, and B.B. King. And
yeah, mine too.
They never play the same song twice, the same way.
No.
Every time it's different. You can hear it 50 times, it's different every time.
I was at an amusement park many years ago, and the first time I ever tried to sing publicly, they had a place where you could make your own cassette tapes. That's how long ago it was.
Oh my God.
And there was karaoke basically, but they would record your voice and mix it to the music, and then you could put it on a cassette. So my wife was, I'm gonna go get some apples. I said, all right, you go get yours, candy apple. I snuck into this recording booth, and I'm looking at this giant chart of all these songs that people were playing.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, there's a Willie Nelson song always on my mind. I'm gonna sing that one. So the guy goes, really? And I was like, yeah, it's a long story, but actually I like Willie. He's like, okay. So he puts it on, puts me in the booth, and man, I gave it my all. Like I was on Carnegie stage, and
nice.
When I opened the door and came out of the booth, there was this huge crowd of people, and they were like, hey, who's in there? Who's singing that song of Willie? And I said, oh, he's still in there. And it was like a Blazing Saddles episode where I like,
oh my God.
Where I kind of like, well, yeah, he's in there, and I like walked out.
He'll do it.
Exactly. I did not want to own up to that. I left the tape in there and everything. I was like, my wife was like, what are other people doing out here? I was like, oh, it's some guy in there they like really love. And they're like, she says, really? Who was it? I was like, I don't know.
That's too funny, man.
So that's me in country.
That's too funny. I have, so I've been a trombone player for forever, and that's my instrument. And I was playing it. I dig everything. Like one of my favorite guys is Louis Armstrong. But we were, I was playing in a Motown disco funk band in Boston. Yeah, we played 4 nights a week, and we did Sam and Dave, we did James Brown, we did Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, we did everything. And we used to do. Sly and the Family Stone.
That's good right there.
Dance to the music.
Yes.
And so, they have that little section where they break it down and each section plays.
Yeah.
So we would go through the song twice, and once we'd go through and I played it, as the original version. And then we would go through, and then when somebody, when the bass player played, he played the Tighten Up.
I like that.
And so we come in.
Oh, that's cool right there. Let's do a left right here.
Okay. And so the guitar player was this Japanese dude.
Oh, wow.
He was just an amazing player. And so he would go out, and he was a rocker. He could play anything, but he was a rocker. So he would play, like Crazy Train, right?
Oh, man.
So the lead singers, we had 2 lead singers that were black dudes. And so I went home one time, and I learned all the words for Crazy Train. And I went over and I said, hey man, give me the mic. He's like, what? I said, give me the mic. So I started singing Crazy Train. And it was great. It was great. And then about 3 months later, the other song the guitar player used to do was AC/DC's. Oh my gosh, what was it? An AC/DC tune. Shook Me All Night Long.
Oh yeah.
So I learned that one. I'm like, hey man, give me the mic. And those are the only 2 songs I sang.
Gotta have your song, man.
That was it, man. That was it. And I got to tell you, I saw one time we got somebody wrote a thank you card for the wedding that we played at, and at the and part of the thank you card, they're like, the band was great, we really enjoyed it, we absolutely loved hearing Ozzy Osbourne at our wedding. I'm like, where?
I know, right?
That's me. Anyway, good stuff, man.
Music, because music transcends. Music splits us up. We get like caught up on stuff, but the music brings us back.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Well, listen, we are almost out of time here, so we need to wrap this up. and I hope that we can get an opportunity to do this again.
So do I.
So, Ken, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. We got to find somewhere to pull over and call it a day, and maybe we'll get a cup of coffee.
Shotgun with Charlie.
All right, well, listen, we are just about where we need to be, so we need to wrap it up with Kenn Blanchard. Kenn Blanchard's been a great guest, and we hope that we have an opportunity to do this again and get you back on the program and do some Riding Shotgun with Charlie.
Man, it's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you for putting up with me. I didn't know I was like working. This is fun.
This is fun work, man. Fun work. It's the best stuff. Ken, it's been a pleasure, man.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, let's do it again. Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys later.